Love is often misunderstood because many people expect it to be announced with clear words and dramatic expressions. Yet in reality, the most sincere emotions frequently reveal themselves through consistent actions rather than spoken declarations. When someone truly cares, their attention becomes intentional. They remember what matters to you, they notice your changes in mood, and they respond to your needs without being asked. These behaviors may appear simple, but they reflect a depth of feeling that words alone cannot fully capture. From an educational perspective, human communication is largely nonverbal. Psychologists emphasize that tone, behavior, and patterns of response often carry more emotional truth than verbal statements. A person may hesitate to say what they feel due to fear, uncertainty, or emotional caution, but genuine care naturally expresses itself through support, patience, and reliability. When someone consistently shows up, listens attentively, and invests effort in your well-being, they are communicating something powerful even in silence. Recognizing love through action requires emotional awareness and observation. It teaches us to value sincerity over performance and consistency over intensity. Grand words can be spoken in a moment, but meaningful actions are repeated over time. They demand intention, effort, and emotional investment. This understanding encourages individuals to look beyond surface-level expressions and appreciate the quiet forms of affection that often goes unnoticed. On an inspirational level, learning to recognize love in action helps build deeper and more respectful relationships. It encourages patience instead of assumption and appreciation instead of doubt. When we understand that love can be expressed quietly, we become more attentive, more compassionate, and more emotionally intelligent. We begin to see that true care is not always declared loudly. Sometimes it is shown gently, steadily, and faithfully through everyday moments. When someone guards their emotions, it can easily be misinterpreted as indifference. Yet emotional protection is often a sign that feelings are meaningful rather than absent. People protect what they value. When affection begins to matter deeply, vulnerability increases, and with vulnerability comes the possibility of rejection, misunderstanding, or loss. In response, many individuals instinctively create emotional boundaries, not to deny their feelings, but to preserve their sense of safety. From an educational standpoint, emotional self-protection is a natural psychological response. Human beings are wired to avoid pain and preserve emotional stability. Past experiences, disappointments, or unspoken fears can shape how openly a person expresses love. A reserved attitude may not signal distance. Instead, it may reflect caution developed through experience. Understanding this helps us interpret behavior with empathy rather than assumption. Silence, hesitation, or restraint can be expressions of inner conflict, the tension between feeling deeply and fearing exposure. This perspective invites emotional maturity. Instead of demanding immediate clarity, we learn to respect emotional pace. Real connection is not built by forcing expression, but by allowing trust to grow gradually. When people feel safe, respected, and understood, their defenses naturally soften. Emotional openness is not something that can be pressured into existence. It is something that emerges when fear loses its influence. On an inspirational level, recognizing emotional protection as a form of care transforms how we approach relationships. It teaches patience and compassion. Rather than interpreting guarded behavior as rejection, we begin to see it as evidence of emotional significance. This awareness encourages gentleness in communication and respect for personal boundaries. It reminds us that love is not always expressed through bold declarations. Sometimes it is revealed through careful distance, thoughtful restraint, and the quiet courage of someone learning to trust again. Awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence, especially in relationships where feelings are not always expressed directly. Many people focus only on what is said, yet meaningful communication often exists beneath the surface of words. By learning to observe patterns of behavior, consistency, attentiveness, emotional reactions, and subtle changes in tone, individuals develop the ability to understand others more deeply. This awareness is not about guessing or assuming. It is about thoughtful observation guided by empathy. From an educational perspective, emotional intelligence involves recognizing, interpreting, and responding appropriately to emotional signals in ourselves and others. When someone notices small shifts in behavior, such as increased concern, protective actions, or quiet support, they are likely to be concerned. They begin to understand emotional language beyond speech. This skill reduces misunderstandings and strengthens trust. It encourages individuals to pause before reacting and to interpret actions within a broader emotional context. Instead of asking only what was said, emotionally aware individuals also ask what was felt. Developing this level of awareness requires patience and intentional focus. It invites people to listen fully, observe respectfully, and respond thoughtfully. Rather than rushing to conclusions, emotionally intelligent individuals seek clarity through understanding. They recognize that human emotions are complex and that sincerity often appears in subtle forms. By paying attention to behavior over time, they learn to distinguish between momentary actions and genuine patterns of care. On an inspirational level, cultivating awareness transforms relationships into spaces of respect and growth. It promotes kindness in interpretation and wisdom in response. When people choose to understand rather than judge, they create an environment where authenticity feels safe. This awareness deepens connection because it acknowledges the full emotional experience of another person, not just their spoken words. Ultimately, awareness nurtures maturity. It teaches that meaningful connection is built not only through expression but also through perception. By becoming attentive observers of emotional behavior, individuals develop stronger empathy, clearer communication, and more resilient relationships grounded in understanding. Love thrives in environments where people feel emotionally safe. When individuals trust that they will be respected, understood, and accepted without judgment, they become more willing to reveal their true feelings. Emotional safety does not mean the absence of challenges, rather, it means the presence of reassurance, patience, and consistency. In such an environment, vulnerability is not seen as weakness, but as a natural part of human connection. From an educational perspective, trust is built through predictable and supportive interactions over time. When someone experiences reliability, words aligned with actions, respect for boundaries, and genuine listening, their natural defenses begin to lower. Emotional expression is closely linked to perceived safety. If a person fears criticism, dismissal, or misunderstanding, they may choose silence over honesty. However, when they feel secure, expression becomes easier and more authentic. This demonstrates that openness is not forced by pressure, but encouraged by acceptance. Creating emotional safety requires conscious behavior. It involves listening without interruption, responding without harsh judgment, and showing patience when emotions are complex or unclear. Small gestures of reassurance, such as understanding pauses, supportive responses, and respectful communication, gradually build a foundation of trust. These consistent actions communicate a powerful message. It is safe to be real here. On an inspirational level, understanding the importance of emotional safety changes how we approach relationships. Instead of demanding immediate transparency, we learn to cultivate conditions where openness can naturally grow. This perspective encourages compassion and responsibility. Each person has the power to create a space where others feel valued and secure enough to share what they truly feel. When emotional safety is present, love does not need to hide. It unfolds gradually, honestly, and confidently. Feelings that were once guarded find the courage to be expressed. This reminds us that meaningful connection is not simply about discovering love, but about creating an environment where love feels free to reveal itself. When we learn to recognize love beyond words, we begin to understand human connection at a deeper level. Genuine feelings are often expressed through consistent care, quiet protection, attentive awareness, and the presence of emotional safety. These elements reveal that love is not always immediate or obvious. It develops within trust, patience, and understanding. By observing actions with empathy, respecting emotional boundaries, and creating environments where vulnerability feels safe, we can build trust and foster healthy relationships. We allow relationships to grow in authenticity rather than pressure. This perspective encourages maturity in how we interpret behavior and compassion in how we respond to it. It reminds us that emotional expression follows emotional security, and sincerity unfolds where acceptance exists. Ultimately, understanding these principles transforms how we experience connection. Instead of seeking loud confirmation, we learn to appreciate steady presence. Instead of assuming distance, we recognize protection. Instead of demanding expression, we cultivate trust. In doing so, we do not merely recognize love, we create the conditions where it can emerge honestly and endure meaningfully.